as the digital age goes on, our attention is connected to currency. Part of breaking the veil I see is breaking the attention time focus matrix. It's like our focus, our attention, and our time basically robbed from us willingly. We've said, okay, yes, please. But we've done so because it's under duress, basically. Most of us, you can't survive and thrive if you don't plug into the matrix that's owned by corporations, government, certain dynastic families. So really breaking the veil is understanding that currency and then finding a way to break each one of those. One of the easier ones being attention, because where your attention goes, your energy flows. So it's looking at where do you spend most of your time, where does most of your attention go, and then moving away from that, getting off Facebook, not watching the mainstream news. So it's a time attention matrix because time itself is in cycles. If you look at cycles beyond what we're used to, longer cycles and then shorter cycles, and you see what happens within those, then you can see the dynamics much more clearly, or at least a little more easily. And in that sense, you can fit your micro into the macro and see where you have cycles and how those cycles fit into a larger cycle. And then there are clues then left by people who have gone before you in their own cycle. And by looking at those cycles, the cycle you're in and your mini cycle, your lifetime cycle, you can see some clues on liberation. You can see some clues on what you could do beyond your physical dynamic, beyond the control matrix that you're in. Now, isn't that cool? We all have access to something greater than what we can physically see, meaning, spirit, God, nature, however you want to spell it out. We have access, direct access. And by hijacking that, there's people who have then controlled our energy and our ability to create. We are creators. And so by hijacking that and controlling where we spend our attention and how we create and what we create, then boom, they've got all of it. But since we have direct access at all times, it's a matter of enhancing that, reigniting that, remembering that access is there, and then reigniting that and keeping it alive. Praying, meditating, contemplating, creating, really making sure that we have that alive at all times, having habits in place so that we keep that. Most of our time is taken up just to exist, so it leaves very little for us to do that, to keep that direct connection, and that's by design. Reignite on a regular basis, then you have access to a creative energy well beyond our physical limit. One of the things is to look for clues from the universe. Even if I'm at a baseball game or I'm doing some mundane activity, there are always these clues left by the universe to tell you and indicate you or prod or reveal things to you. And when you keep your eyes open to those, then in fact you can have epiphanies and understandings and awakenings, mini awakenings that help snip away at the control matrix.
When I'm experiencing the numbers, and this last year of 2020 now into 2021, it's been a process of real enlightenment and discovery. And yes, it points back to many years ago, hundreds, thousands of years ago. I would say right to the beginning of when this started, this whole thing on Earth. I believe everything was put into place. The language was put into place. The numbers were put into place. The reality that we exist in now, the big key players on the board, i.e. President Trump and others. So I do believe that that's exactly the case. And when they seep into things like films or newspapers or other things. Misspeaking, I do that plenty. We all do it, but there's a code behind the misspeak now in this great, the Great Awakening, this age of Aquarius, the Trump millennium, whatever you want to call it, the golden age, the 1,000 years of peace, it's right there.
But to get there, you have to reconnect with source, however you want to call it, and then understand your habitual habits, where your attention goes, where your spirit goes, where your energy goes, diverting that so that it fuels more of your ikigai, and it fuels more of what you intentionally want to do, rather than what you would do at default, or what you would do because of circumstances and context of those around you. Once you liberate from that, then you're truly free to basically be the person you want to be, or do the things you want to do. And the less you have to do, the more freedom you have to decide what you want to do. From early on, we're tied into debts, which mean that our attention cycle is upon those debts, even if those debts are actually made from nothing, from thin air. It's a magician's dream, because they can print as much money as they want to, and it's indentured servitude that you have to that, even though it's printed from nothing. It's a trickery that we've been maintained under for so long, and so many people have recognized that and decided, okay, well, we're going to have some freedom here. We're going to fight back from that dynamic, the banking cartel. But on an individual, and that battle is happening right now. That's a larger cycle. I see it as the mini cycle is your own battle within that dynamic. How are you battling, both in terms of the money control dynamic, debt control money dynamic, and how are you battling in the larger context with other people, connecting the dots and ensuring we don't have that indentured servitude, both on a personal and also societal level, and then on a worldwide level. If we can escape that, then we can contemplate or get to a higher level. We can't wait for that. You have to build as you go. Even as you're doing this battle for freedom from debt, slavery, you're still doing the larger, like, where would you want to go anyway? Let's say that battle's already won. Where would you go after that? What would you do? And you have to start that now, I think, even as your battle is going on a micro and macro level. You have to start that other dynamic so that it all comes into play, and you're not left thinking that one event is going to be the answer. And that's a cool idea. I mean, it's nice to think that one event would do it all, but in the end, it's not just one event, it's many, and it's ongoing. Let's say the event you think is going to do it all comes to pass. Well, there's still the battle, because believe me, those other forces don't just give up. They keep going.
At some point, the reveal happens and things get a lot worse, right? So we're moving to that point. Now, a lot of people think that once we get the reveal, it's going to be like angels singing, light, and the darkness goes away. People wake up, and the bad people say, oh, you got us. We'll go away now. Don't be naive.
Knowing that the battle's ongoing, how to keep consistency and fluidity and motivation and so on. So those are just some thoughts. It all lends itself, I think, to freedom itself, and whatever you think that freedom might be, it's understanding that there are tools at your disposal well beyond the physical, and it's recognizing those and developing those further, I think. So hope you found this video helpful, and thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time. There's somebody behind me. It's one thing I love walking the woods, but I know I still have to get used to walking and talking in public. Jesus. It's easier to just walk in the woods. It's always weird to just talk at a camera in public, even with just one person around.